Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dr. Velma Talks, Dating, Relationships, and Marriage. It's a conversation with me as your media personality, podcast host of this episode, Dr. Velma Talks, as well as Finding Your Voice. And I'm a co host of Words I Choose to Live By, which is coming back in August. I'm excited. I'm a best selling Christian author, certified dating and relationship coach, an ordained minister, professional speaker, trainer, and a woman who's been blessed with a marriage of over 50 years. So, welcome to this next episode. This is episode number 3, and we are examining the women in the Catch series and determining why they kept making the wrong mistakes over and over, choosing the wrong men. So we're doing a SWOT analysis, something that the character Pastor Greyson recommended to the women and the men that he spoke to at the conferences. And that's what we're going to do today. So let me just share with you the fact that we're taking the character Shanta to determine why she and women like her kept choosing men who did not want to date only one woman. So today we're going to be talking about the sturgeon and why they dated sturgeons. Let me read the card to you. First of all, the story is taken out of book 1 of the Catch series, and I'll read the card concerning the sturgeon. The sturgeon, this is the guy who's your standard charmer and will weasel his way into your heart, saying everything you want to hear. This fish is sneaky. The angler sits for a long time fishing, but doesn't notice that the bait is gone from his fishing pole. That's because the angler was unaware that the fishing line wasn't moving with the current. He was unaware that the fishing line wasn't moving with the current, but the small movements that he saw was caused by the sturgeon who was slowly nibbling the bait off the line. The man who is like the sturgeon loves nibbling and will go wherever he's permitted to do so. That's your sturgeon, the nibbler. So, are we talking about believers and their dating habits today? Yes, we are. These are believers that experience these kind of situations all the time. Matter of fact, I grew up watching a sturgeon in action at my old church. So I want you to understand that these are real, stories are relatable because they're happening every day. So today we're going to talk about the character Shanta and why women like her continuously choose men like this, knowing that they're going to be balancing and dating multiple women at the same time. And once the sturgeon nibbles, he goes on to his next challenge. So here we are, SWOT analysis again. Let me remind you about the SWOT analysis and what it does. S stands for strengths, which is basically looking at their qualities. So the women are not all bad people. It's just they have some things they need to fix and pay attention to. First, they have to identify them and pay attention to what they need to correct. Then it tells you about their weaknesses, the W's, weaknesses. Those are those areas that are their vulnerabilities, things they need to improve. And then there's opportunities, the O. That's where improvements need to be made. And then finally, threats. These are the causes and the problems that definitely have to be fixed at some point. So let's take a look at the sturgeon and why women like Shanta, the character, accept men like this who are dating multiple women. So here's her strength. She's open minded. So that's a quality that she has. And not to say that this is something she should apply in dating and discovering her mate, but they like accepting non traditional relationship arrangements. So here's what I want to say about that. Anytime you see the word non traditional, already you're breaking from God's pattern. Anything non traditional, you most likely will be breaking God's pattern. God never called us to create relationships outside of what He's called a marriage. Neither does He call us to get into arrangements. That's not what He calls a marriage. So it's important for you to understand if it says non traditional, then you're already going down the wrong path. Another one of her qualities, she's capable of navigating complex relationship dynamics. That may be great, and yeah, we can give her the the, the award for being so great at it, but it's wrong. It's not okay. Self-awareness, she recognizes her preferences and her choices, so she knows she's wrong. She knows what she's choosing is not okay. And willingness to explore. So she's open to accepting this kind of relationship or arrangement, which is not okay with God. So, although it might be considered a strength, maybe it's a strength as it applies to work relationships or work situations, but not when you're in a situation where you're trying to discover the mate God has for you. So here's the weakness. She has the potential for emotional hurt. So accepting men who date others might lead to feelings of jealousy, insecurity, and we know low self-esteem is there because if you're accepting someone like this, and look, everybody we've talked about so far have fallen to some of the same patterns. Low self-esteem, low poor self-worth, their value of themselves are so low. I mean, they set the bar way below what you would consider standard or acceptable. So we can see some of those clues already. So potential for hurt, low self-esteem, poor self-worth, lack of boundaries, may not force clear boundaries or communicate her needs effectively. She's not communicating anything because she's accepting what this person is offering her, which is really nothing below standard. So please make sure you acknowledge that this is what's happening with this character. Accepting less than what she deserves. Who does that? A person who doesn't value themselves. A person who says, well, this is all I got. This is all I can get. I guess this is all I deserve. No, those are all lies. You need to work on who you are and tap into your value and your worth. A pattern of unfulfillment. So somebody who is just used to never being fulfilled will accept that pattern as normal, and it isn't. It's not the standard that God has set for you. Here are the opportunities, and here's where she can improve. Self reflection. Again, assessing why you're doing what you're doing, identifying why you're doing, and identifying those shortcomings in yourself. Poor self worth, poor self esteem, poor value of yourself. Clarify what your own needs and desires are, and then set boundaries around them. Then there's room for personal growth, developing your confidence, poor self confidence, just poor worth. All we could put poor on all of those names. This is what she sees about herself, and then understanding what the red flags, and I'm not talking about red flags that other people are writing about and publishing. My red flag is capital R period, capital E period, capital D period, flags. Retreat, extremely dangerous. These are things that you see that you should turn around from right away. That's why we have them. Danger, retreat, extremely dangerous. It's important that red flags be acknowledged and understand what she truly values. And that's where she needs to do the deep dive, do the SWOT analysis, take her time to examine why she's at the state that she's at. This is not the time for her to be dating anyone because these guys and the ones I've talked about so far, they pick out women like this because they know they're vulnerable. And so seeking supportive relationship. We talk about wise counsel in the Catch series, connecting with wise counsel, friends and mentors, counselors who can reinforce her value and worth and her standards. Set standards for yourself. No standards you'll be taken advantage of. Here are the threats, the causes, the problems. Emotional distress, ongoing disappointment, which is what she's going to have, jealousy and feelings of inadequacies. She's going to have them because she hasn't set any boundaries and she doesn't have any limits. So you must have standards for yourself and not make adjustments. Missed opportunities, so she could have missed out on some wonderful opportunities because she's still hanging out with a person that will never offer her anything worth anything. Erosion of who she is. Her self esteem will continue to be eroded and devalued. She'll continue to be devalued. She'll continue to be treated as substandard, feeling less than. All of those things will shake her confidence even more. Repeated patterns of unfulfillment. If she doesn't address those underlying issues, she'll keep attracting the same kind of person. whether it's this one, salmon, whether it's the catfish, any one of those guys that we've seen so far, these women that we've examined so far, they all have some of the same issues, very similar. And so they attract the wrong catch for that reason. And so the SWOT analysis showed her strengths, that she's open, maybe, but what does that mean? Just open herself up to hurt and harm and disappointment. Her weaknesses, potential for hurt, lack of boundaries. It hinders her emotional well being. It's going to erode all of it concerning her worth and value. Opportunities is the time for her for self reflection. It's time for her to do an examination, her own SWOT analysis, setting boundaries and understanding what a true relationship looks like. As none of the examples I've talked about so far are. And then the threats, emotional pain, missed opportunities in a fulfilling relationship, and a decrease in her self esteem, her value will continue to erode. So you can see why it's important to conduct the SWOT analysis. You can see why it's important for us to do this and why writing these stories was important to me. So if you know anyone that fits this pattern or it sounds like someone you know, make sure you get the books and get them some help and give them some support. I want to thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who are listening in on the audio, please make sure you email your comments. For those listening and watching the video, make your comments. State what you think about what I shared today. Those on audio, you can email me your comments at adonaipublishing@gmail.com. ADONI publishing@gmail.com. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you want to easily get reminders about the upcoming podcast, then subscribe to my YouTube channel and then set the reminder. You'll be notified of the upcoming episodes. So this is episode number 3. I have one more episode where I'm going to address one of the female characters, and then we switch to talk about the men and do a SWOT analysis on some of the male characters and why they were making the mistakes of choosing the wrong women. So I want to thank you for tuning in to another segment of Dr. Velma Talks. You all have a wonderful day.